if I traded it all.
So I'm really excited about having my next guest on. He's going to be on for an hour with us. I have with me David Fisher, and he is the CEO of Landmark Capital. And I'm excited to have you on because there's a lot of things that have been going on that people have been a little bit worried about. The new year is upon us. Welcome back to the show. You've been on many times. You have your own radio show. You are on many radio shows right now. You're doing nothing but educating. Tell everybody a little bit about you and what we're going to talk about today.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. This is your show. I get to be a part of your world. This is your world. Thank you for having me. My privilege and honor, as always, to be with you.
Thank you.
A little bit about me. I've been in the precious metal industry for 23 years. I'm the CEO of my company, Landmark Capital. We help people understand what's going on economically. We talk very little about gold, actually. We talk more about the economics of what's happening in the world, which causes people to say, it's prudent and wise to have a portion of my money into precious metals. Sometimes that percentage is larger than others, and sometimes it's smaller. Just like sometimes it makes sense to have a lot of your money in stocks, and sometimes it does not make sense to have a lot of your money in stocks and cash.
Right.
So, gold there's nothing magical about it. It's the same thing. It's properly allocating asset classes to your portfolio and analyzing the current environment and what we think might happen in the future, and then investing wisely.
But you've done something, and I want to get this out now, because you've made it possible for people to take possession, physical possession. And, there's some people that don't understand that it is legal and that you wouldn't do it if it wasn't, number one. Number two, that you can do it with you and you make it affordable as well. Go ahead.
Correct. A lot of people don't understand that you can legally, according to the Taxpayer Act of 1997 and the IRS ruling Swanson versus IRS case, you can have a self-directed IRA, which is a terminology some people understand, a lot of people don't. You can take physical possession of your metals under a self-directed IRA without a tax liability. In other words, roll over your IRA, your 401k into a qualified retirement plan that's self-directed, which just says you're in charge. And you can buy physical, not paper, stocks, but physical precious metals and take possession of that and hold it, and there's no tax liability. You're still under the umbrella of an IRA. There's ways of doing that legally. I use a lawyer. It costs $385 if you're out of state. Most of our business comes from, we're a global, a national company. But if you're in state, it's $350 because you don't have to have a certain person being a certain role to set that up. So that's $35. So it's $350 in state, $385 out of state, and that gets the ball rolling for you to be able to take control of your future financially.
You also are all about education. So you do free consultations. You also wrote a white paper that is on a lot of the things that we've been talking about, and you have a new one that's, I'm sure, coming up soon too. We want to get everybody your information so they can call and get to your office, people to, talk to you a little bit about, their questions that they might have with the things that you talk about.
Absolutely. I write a monthly newsletter. The one just went out today for the Merry Christmas. I waited till the end of the month for December as a Merry Christmas, and we're going to talk about a little bit something else that I put in there called the discount that happens this time of year. We'll talk about that on your program today at the end. But also I wrote on a new trend that's happening in this newsletter called deglobalization, which goes with Trump. I'm writing a new paper that will come out in January, a brand new white paper on all my predictions on what's going to happen in the brand new year with a brand new leadership. A lot of it's great. We're going to have a lot of great environment financially, but it's not everything works 100% right in life, and we all know that. So I'm going to talk about the great things today, but I'm also going to talk about the challenges that might not work out so well.
So your website is landmarkgold.com. The phone number to call to the office direct is 602-287-9200. A lot of information on the website, and they do free consultations. They want to talk to you. Let's talk today about some of the things that you want to talk about. Go ahead.
Well, as your last guest said, he's an optimist. I heard that brief statement. I would classify myself as such, but I'm a little bit optimistically realistically, if you can say it that way.
Okay, yes, you can.
Okay, thank
You're a
you.
realist.
You'd correct me if I said
Realist,
something.
yeah.
Okay, so we have a lot of challenges in the world. You know, I've been talking a lot about what's going on in Europe. Europe has some major challenges, and recently it's not been affecting the United States. And we just had a major challenge happen in Europe. We had what I'm referring to is the oldest bank in the world, Banca Monte Paschi, out of Siena, and it's not going under, not yet. Its stock is at $10 and change, $10.81 last I checked. But they're having to raise capital, $5 billion. They have $30 billion of assets that are illiquid. The International Monetary Fund announced a week and a half ago that they have till the end of the year. Otherwise, they're going to come in and do something drastic. They didn't allude to what they were going to do. It's either going to seize the bank, which I find that, how can they legally do that? Not even the bylaws of the IMF says they, or the European Monetary Union says they can do that. Or they're going to force a bail-in on their Italian citizens. I think that's what's going to happen if they don't get bought out.
This would be how many countries now?
Well, it's already happened in Italy before, but this is the oldest bank in the world where it happened, and this would be a huge landmark. So we've been talking about in the past Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank got out of trouble. They had a third quarter earnings report. They're supposed to lose $780 million. That's what all the analysts were saying, 30 analysts, and they're pretty much right on that number because they were losing money for 2.5 years, Deutsche Bank. The report came out that they actually made $330 million. So that's $1 billion difference in what the analysts said. They cooked their books, I think, personally, but it got them out of trouble, which is the good part, because if they went under, we would have had a huge financial calamity in the worldwide.
Oh my God.
So moving on to the next bank, because it's not just one bank that's in trouble. There's like 7 major banks. The 2 of the large ones I'm talking about, I just mentioned Deutsche Bank. That's the biggest problem. They're out of the woods for the time being, but they still haven't paid their $14 billion in restitution to the Department of Justice. They haven't paid a penny on it. So that's still yet to be determined. That's why I say they're not out of the woods yet, because they don't have $14 billion. They have $5 billion. Moving on to Monte Paschi, the Bank of Monte Paschi, the oldest bank in the world, they have till the end of the year to get their books in order, to have enough financial cash on hand. They have had
The end of this year?
End of this year.
Wow.
They've had $19 billion of withdrawals from their citizens that put money in the bank this year. They can't survive. They're underwater financially, and this is why the European Monetary Union is coming in saying, you have to do something. So they got $30 billion of bad loans on their books. They're going to try and sell it at a huge discount for $5 billion to, the financial sharks in the tank that come in and buy depressed assets. And they're going to try and sell it for $5 billion before the end of the year, 10 days, 11 days from now. Otherwise, there's going to be probably a bail-in in Italy, in this bank. So we're watching that. If we have these things, people will say, okay, I guess David is right. There is such a thing as a bail-in, even though I can document it in all my reports. It's been on Fox News. Reuters has talked about, the International Monetary Fund's talked about, even it's on the government website, FDIC.gov. So bail-ins are real. It's still a part of our country. Moving over to now our country. The biggest thing I want to say today is I'm so thankful that Trump's in office. I'm a supporter of Trump. I like what he's saying. I like what he's going to do. But the honeymoon is still intact. And there's a lot of politicians who have said a lot of things that didn't accomplish a whole hell of a lot. Pardon my French. Mm-hmm. It angers me, obviously, when I hear presidents say things and they don't follow through, We've seen that too much. I don't think we're going to get that from Trump. I really don't. But I think with comes him a big wild card that we're going to talk about in a second.
We're going to go to a break. When we come back, I want to talk further. David's amazing, and he's all about education. You can check him out on his website, and all of the information is there as well. It's landmarkgold.com. Call his office. They do free consultations. 602-287-9200. We'll be back in just a minute.
Traded it all.
Welcome back. And we're talking with David Fisher. He's the CEO of Landmark Capital. And at the break, we were talking about some things. So go ahead. I'm going to give you the floor a little bit.
Well, I'm going to talk about the last commercial we just heard, Doc, with Hypnotic One. People have been hypnotized into one financial news clip, playing over and over. The Dow at 20,000. Will the Dow hit 20,000 today? Well, it's going to be a remarkable day today on Wall Street. The Dow is going to hit 20,000. How many times have we heard this?
A lot.
It didn't hit 20,000, but I'm telling you, it probably hit it tomorrow.
Because they want us to think that.
Everybody wants it. I want it too. I want what's good for America. I want to make America great again. But making America great, and here's Trump's plan, and I think he's brilliant. I really do. But he's also a wild card. You know, there's things that we all say. If we could pick the perfect president, would that be Trump? Everything. Would you have everything right now about Trump?
I'm sorry. I'd have to say no.
Everybody,
I don't know that I could say anyone really says yay.
Nobody's going to say
he's
yes
perfect.
to that. Very 1%, 5%, 10 at the most.
Right.
I think that's an aggressive number. There's things that we can say we didn't like about President Obama. There's a lot of things we could say. There's a lot of things we didn't like about President Bush. So with every president came its own set of challenges. Right. And that's what people have to understand. We're in the honeymoon thinking, everything's been so great. The Dow's at 20,000. There's a thing called the Trump Euphoria Index. I created it. It consists of four things. The Dow going up. The dollar going up, which is at a 14-year high. It's at 103 by index. That's really high, okay? Rates going up, the 10-year note, which before Trump got put in perspective, before Trump got elected, it was under 2%. Now it's 2.55%. That's such a huge rise in rates that it forced the Fed. I said, it's rates. The market is going to force the Fed to raise rates. I've said on your program for a year, and what happened? The market forced the Fed to raise rates. Not right always, but I'm right a lot when it comes to financial economics, okay? And the fourth thing is the negative inverse of relationship of gold to the dollar going up. Because usually when the dollar goes up, gold goes down. When the dollar goes down, gold goes up, right? Mm-hmm. There's some times when stocks went up, gold went down. There's some times when stocks went up, gold went up. So there's not a strong correlation. But those four things, I call it the Trump Euphoria Index. The Trump Euphoria Index is going up like never before. The Dow is moving it's gone up 21 out of 26 sessions. It's gone up higher since the elections. 1,900 points. This is well beyond the norm. 14% in last 2 months. 14% year to date, 8% in the last 2 months. That is a euphoria.
But what goes up must come down?
Well, it has to have legs to stand on. You know, it's the old adage, buy on a rumor, sell on a fact. Rumor has it Trump's going to lower the tax rate from 35% corporate tax rate down to 12%. That's what he's proposing.
Right.
That's the rumor. Buy on the rumor. Rumor has it he's going to take away all the regulations that causes companies not to be able to make a lot of money. He's a business guy. Rumor has it he's going to spend $1 trillion on infrastructure to create bridges, highways, and road and put America back to work. Rumor has it he's going to renegotiate our trade like with China. We're getting the short end of the stick. He's going to renegotiate trade with Mexico. He's going to bring companies that want to take out and outsource like Carrier. He's going to make them stay in the United States, American companies. And he's doing that. So buy on a rumor. All these things are somewhat a rumor, but he's moving towards facts. So it's great for the economy, but it's still yet to be determined. But if he did all those things, it's going to come at a price. Let me put it into perspective here. He's a Reaganomics guy. He's really a liberal Republican or a Democratic Republican is really how he's operating by. He's not really truly a hard, staunch Republican. I mean, we all know that. He just went on the Republican ticket and appealed to the Republican values, and there's a lot of Republican in him. But he also appealed to a lot of Democrats before being a candidate. I mean, he used to support Hillary and Bill. I mean, you can see all the pictures on the internet. He was an avid supporter. Whoever was in office, he became their friend because he wanted to negotiate his deals with the government. You know, all the special interest groups. He had his own. So he's a bring it to guy together, make the deal happen, baba bing, baba boom, New York guy, get it done quicker, faster, cheaper than anyone else, and let's not waste any time. And he's a quick decision maker. I've analyzed him. Sometimes you can't do all that in such a short amount of time without repercussions. Evidenced by him making a phone call to Taiwan and upsetting the Chinese. Evidenced by all his rhetoric towards Russia and Putin. Evidenced by him upsetting different groups of people when he says off the cuff his opinion and they interpret it different from not his intention. So he's done some things that he can do legally, like filing bankruptcy. You can't bankrupt America, though. And he talked about negotiating the debt. There's certain things just will not work. And if he tries to go down those road, it will cause some major financial challenges. So back to Reagan. Reagan is my favorite president. My dad served with him. I love Reagan. And he put America back to work. He did a lot of the things already that Trump is wanting to do. And Trump is on the same pathway that Reagan went on. Reagan lowered taxes from 72% corporate tax, 72% down to 35%. That's why we're 35% tax bracket right now, okay? And he put America back to work. He created job growth like no one else. And a lot of presidencies have never done since. Pretty simple. That's you can't really argue that point. He clearly did that. And he didn't have a lot of political experience doing any of this, kind of like Trump. But Reagan, and most people don't understand this, ballooned the debt. He walked into the office as president when the debt was $550 billion, $500 billion. He walked out of office at $2.8 trillion.
Oh,
so when people talk about Obama, how much debt he incurred on the national debt, $10 trillion.
Right.
He doubled it. Reagan significantly did more than doubling it. So there's a cause and effect economics. So he said, let's lower corporate tax. Let's get the infrastructure working. They started a program called NASA. We put man on the moon. We beefed up our military. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Trump wants to. We built our bridges and highways. Trump wants to build bridges and highways. Spend $1 trillion in just infrastructure spending. That's his goal. Hasn't been passed yet because he's not in office. He wants to beef up the military. He hasn't set a number on that one yet, but he wants to undo all the financial cuts that President Obama did in our military and go backwards in time and have a strong military, not just undo what President Obama did, but strengthen it much more than it was prior to even Bush. I'm interpreting what he's wanting to do. Where's the money going to come from?
It's got to come from us.
If he's lowering taxes, where does it come from?
So how do we do it?
He's going to spend and put it on the national debt. That's what I'm telling.
But so we'll have just be more in debt, more in debt.
Okay, now you're understanding.
Right.
And this is not just what I'm saying, but this is not a popular topic.
So all the more reason, as we're talking, so I'm getting it going in my head.
Because at some point, if you just took on all this debt and you didn't have a printing press, you're going to file bankruptcy, right? You can't manage your debt.
And you can't do that.
Okay, so you either got to print money and get other people to hold this money, and if that's on the downturn where central banks have been buying less dollars, even though the dollars have been going up, and a lot of people are buying, a lot of individuals are buying treasuries, not countries like before. The trend is down there. Somebody has to hold the debt if we're going to continue to exasperate overspending. We're already $600 billion of a deficit spending every year. In other words, $600 billion goes on the national debt if we do spend not a penny more than add interest to it. They just raise the rates the Fed did, so the rates are going to be higher.
So we're back to square one when it comes to a bail-in, correct?
Well, we're back to fundamentals. We could be, yes. Because, and here's another thing. Oh, Trump will take care of that. He's going to undo that Dodd-Frank Act. Yeah, I hear that. I say, do you know what Trump has said about the Dodd-Frank Act? And they say, no, I assume he's just going to not do that. He's going to repeal it. Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, said on CNBC 2 days after being assigned as that, said, we're not repealing the Dodd-Frank Act. We're only modifying the financial side of banks' reporting requirements. That stops lending.
Check him out on his website. It is landmarkgold.com. You can also call him. He does free consultations at 602-287-9200.